Well, hello everybody, at last, and welcome to yet another new sparkling edition of the Inworld Review, where we're currently broadcasting live from Chilbo in Second Life in association with AView TV and the Dateline, so to speak, and I am determined to get this right. It is the 4th day of the month of May of the year 2014. There. Aren't I precise? I swear I have actually got it right today. I heard a squeak in the background from my Skype channel, and I've been told that my lips are not on, but my lips are on, in my view, at least, and my radio waves are coming out of my head, though those of you at home can't tell that. You're really not meant to be able to tell that. And it's very true. On the camera, I don't see my lips moving, so maybe I'll toggle them a little bit later. Anyway, time for where we normally start. And while I'm doing a quick toggle, and it doesn't want to toggle, does it? Okay, let me come back to the lip flappery in a minute. Okay, it might be on now. We'll have to see. I'll come to the latest just highlights in news. I'm not going to read out the news from Hypergrid Business because Maria is here and she will shortly be able to do that for her very self, but I will prompt her if I think she's missed anything. I do have a few items, however, which are rather intriguing, one of which is from the University of Cincinnati, which of course is where both Andrew Hughes, Designing Digitally, and Philippe Duke, Chris Collins, are based. The author of this blog is somebody called Tom Robinette, and it's just rather intriguing. The title is The Ancient Maya and Virtual Worlds, Different Perspectives on Material Meanings. And strictly speaking, this isn't about virtual worlds as we know them, but the author is actually making some interesting parallels as to what is known about the way the Mayans conceived their environment and the universe, and they sort of believed in a sort of virtuality. Anyway, intriguing stuff, sort of incidental stuff you may care to read. You'll find that at uc.edu. We'll be publishing the links in chat anyway, so while I'm actually doing this, I'm going to be very civilized and I'm going to attempt to copy it to the clipboard so that it ends up in the chat window at some point. Let's see, Control C. Hang on, I'm falling into my own trap here of talking as I'm trying to do something else. Anyway, we'll see how that goes. Right, so that's the first link I've got. Next one is a blog called the Simmersion blog. And this one is one I picked up this morning, if I remember rightly, although it's actually dated some time back. Innovative collaboration between Simmersion, a company I haven't actually heard of, and Medscape will use virtual patients to introduce doctors to the spirit of motivational interviewing. And it's basically an example of using virtual worlds in real-world doctor-patient relationships. And one of the nice sort of serious uses of virtual technology. You can find that at simmersion.wordpress.com. And again, I'm trying to send a link over to the channel. So Control C. We could do this in advance if I was thinking about it, but never mind. Right. So that was that. Now we're back to Australia here. Universitiesnews.com. And Australia, funding boost for virtual learning tool research. Apparently they have received quite some funding, presumably from the government. The Office of Learning and Teaching has awarded about 400 Australian dollar grants to the UQ School of Architecture and Faculty of Business Economics and Law, basically to develop virtual learning environments for teaching. So good news for them. Again, I'm about to do the old copy-paste bit. This does not make good television, does it? Me doing copy and
But it's
pasting.
great. It's great now. Thank you.
I should do it while I'm actually talking, but I'm a male. I'm not very good at multitasking.
Oh, sure you can. You're doing great. It's fine.
Okay, well, another one coming up now in advance. This is a blog I found at a site called Motherboard, published earlier. No, it would actually have been published about 10 days ago, April 24th. But the blog is entitled, "I've been wearing a virtual reality helmet for 20 years." Indeed. And it's an article by somebody called Tony Paris, saying VR is back, baby, with a vengeance and all the rest of it. But then talking about how back in 1994, he and somebody called Mark Pesky worked with the Worldwide Web Development Community to create VRML, the virtual reality markup language, which seems a long time ago now, but it really was probably, in my case, one of the very first examples on the web itself of the birth pangs of virtual reality. I actually had an archivist friend who was working with somebody else in Holland, and they had a library of sort of 60s, 70s culture stuff, and the whole interface for it was built as a kind of virtual city in VRML. It was nothing of the detail we get in Second Life and places like that these days, but it was the start of the idea that you can visit a website and then visually walk around and navigate to what you wanted as opposed to just click on the menu system. So a curious article there, and you'll find that at motherboardvice.com. Always good to have a bit of history in the work, so to speak. I have just managed to close a tab, which I think is one I haven't read out yet, but never mind, we'll carry on. Okay, Across the Grid with Lindau Kidd. Again, an article published yesterday entitled High Fidelity, which of course is the name of Rosedale's new startup. High Fidelity, the next Facebook or the next Second Life? And basically taking into account the fact that the system has been bought by Facebook, and she refers to high fidelity and things like that. What will the high fidelity project work out as? Will it be more like a Facebook with a virtual world, or will it be more like Second Life with a kind of Facebook aspect to it? Interesting. If indeed any of those, I will just pick up the link for that.
The Avast virus database has been updated.
Thank you, Avast. This has just updated itself, as you probably heard. This is a great show already, isn't it? We're getting way off track. Okay, there is another link for what I'm talking about now in ready to go over to the channel. Now, I did actually see High Fidelity actually did publish a video in the week. Or actually, it was published by Chris Collins, who, of course, is behind Strangelings. And I think he's back in California these days, but he did go back to his native Australia for a while. He is a former Linden, and he is working with Philip and the others on this. And he did a sort of tutorial video using the Alpha Viewer to show the way around and stuff like that. A couple of bloggers picked up on this. Unfortunately, it has now been taken down, or rather it has been restricted to private use. It was always meant to be private and only an internal video for the beta testers. But it did, I will let on that it did reveal a few things. It was, the viewer was on the Macintosh, and its menu system was governed by the text bars you see in the Finder bar at the top of the screen. In other words, the world itself didn't have obvious in-world menus and things like Second Life does. And there were a lot of quick keys for popping up communications tools and things like that actually would pop up as windows in front of you. So this seemed to conform much more to the metaphors you use in applications or indeed a web browser. So that I found it interesting. But if you have been seeing links for that and wondering where it was, well, you can't see it. they've made doubly sure it's now private, but it clearly interesting stuff they're doing there. Right. Okay, I think I have one more link in the sort of serious stuff section. Yes, this was published again, May the 3rd, yesterday. Clayton Christensen, Disruptive Technology. It appears... Oh, you're definitely going to want me to copy this link. Because
See, it's not that hard. You can do it.
There ain't no way I'm going to be reading that. I was going to read that one out. The website's address is a nightmare in itself. Anyway, this particular article is called The Disruptive Power of Second Life. And it's not really Second Life specific, because it could aspects of this could be equally talking about OpenSim or anywhere else. But it's just it's quite a short article, but it's it's just a piece on the disruptive potential of virtual worlds. And of course, these days, disruption is considered to be a very good thing. Back when I was a kid, you mentioned disruption and they'd hang you. Anyway, yeah. Okay, so hopefully all those links have got to a chat room. It does seem like they have. So that really is it for my main links here. I'm going to keep them up for a while before I move to the Inworld stuff. But first of all, for more of the same, or different of the same, should I say, it's over to Tara for her highlights. Over to you, Tara.
Well, thank you, Mel. And greetings, everyone, from the Pacific Northwest, where after we had in the RL Sim here, we had 4 days this week of, actually I think it was 5 days of glorious sunshine, and it got into the mid-80s, which is almost unheard of in this part of the country.
Wow.
and of course, it went to hell in a handbasket when it went, and yesterday set a record for rainfall. And it hasn't stopped.
Gotta love it.
Anyway, it was too bad that it rained on Saturday, but at least the forecasts were out there, so you knew that it was going to deteriorate rather abruptly. Anyhow, I've got a little show and tell this week, of course. I'd like to do show and tell because it gives Pet something to focus on, her camera. And actually, this is a little item. This is actually from Fantasy Fair. And for those of you who have been holding off on visiting Fantasy Fair, I can happily report that I was able to get into Fantasy Fair on Friday, which was the second day, and yesterday and today. So I can't say that all the Sims in Fantasy Fair will be equally accessible, and certainly you're going to have a good time with lag and stuff taking a while to res, but it's definitely worth visiting for amazing builds. I've only visited 2 Sims and crashed twice, but it's definitely worth a visit to see the amazing fantasy stuff that the builders have created, and also to obviously check out the exhibitors. And what I have to show off here is a new scratching post, a climbing post for kitty cats. That's a Relay for Life special this year from them, I've got a couple of kitty cats that have been set loose to roam around and go over and scratch on it if they're inclined, and it will be sort of a potluck, hit or miss whether one of them cooperates at some point when Pitt has a camera going there. But you will see perched on one of the branches, actually there's a couple of leaves that are specifically designed so you can park a kitty cat on one, and I've got one of this year's spring special kitty cats that's wearing a bunny onesie.
It doesn't get any cuter than that. That's awful cute.
It's just entirely too. Yeah, and also, what's as a side note on these special bunny kitties, the other one that's running around is a yellow. He's got a yellow bunny onesie on, and the first time they mate, when you mate one with one of the same special ones, they produce a special baby, and the special baby that these two produced is a black bunny onesie. I haven't birthed it. It's still in its
like a
box,
black sheep kitty.
Yeah, like a black
rabbit
sheep kitty. It's just I probably am going to have to keep that one. It's entirely too cute. Anyhow, yes. Relay for just a couple other notes on Fantasy Fair. I don't have the URL. I don't have the link, but it's all over the place. So it's a little hard to not find it. But just as some side notes, it runs through Sunday, May 11th. So get there this week. Don't delay. And also, there's a special hunt that starts tomorrow. So by all means, those are hunts that are definitely fun to do, and some amazing prizes too. So don't miss that. And the other major things that Mel and I yesterday went to see the production of Paradise Lost. And those of you who've watched this show at all or paid attention to the blogosphere have probably seen some comments about this. They started work on it, 4 months ago, 5 months ago? I know it was before Christmas. And I know that they had a casting call for a couple of characters. It is truly a remarkable production. It's ticketed. You have to buy a ticket, which are available in the marketplace. The total show is about an hour and a half long, assuming nothing goes pear-shaped. You are, as part of the audience, actually are part of the production. You have to wear an angel outfit that they provide. This also gives them a bit of control over lag as far as scripts and stuff, because they tell you to take everything off before you put the angel outfit on. But they can turn you into a devil, and you find yourself, instead of being parked in one of the pews, you find yourself up dancing at various times during the production. So that makes it a very unique thing.
That's cool. What's that called again, Tara?
It's Paradise Lost.
Okay.
Probably the easiest way to find it, to find the ticket information, is to go to the marketplace and type in Paradise Lost. They were doing a midday production for a few weeks, and they're doing productions on Saturdays and Sundays. Sundays collides with this show, so Saturday was the option. And I think they're running into June, but it does not last forever. And I seem to recall it's a cast of about 20 or more people. There's a lot of characters in this. There's a lot of scene changes. It's just, it's really eye-popping. It's based on Milton's Paradise Lost. So that will give you you've got angels and devils and Adam and Eve in the garden and getting thrown out of the garden, and Adam and Eve doing what Adam and Eve do in the garden that gets them thrown out of the garden. So this is takes advantage of some animations that you would find in Zindra.
You mean eating fruit, right?
Yeah.
That's one way of putting it.
And wearing fig leaves.
Yes.
Or not, as the case may be.
Or not, as the case may be, yes. So go catch it. It's definitely worth, it's worth I think it's 1,000 lindens for tickets. Your ticket is only good on the day that you buy the ticket for. Then those are non-refundable, so make sure you put it in your calendar. It's a little tricky if you crash getting back in and getting to stay if it's in the middle of an act. The 3 acts with a couple of intermissions. But I suspect yesterday may have been a little less stable than it would probably ordinarily be.
Oh yeah, they had a couple of bad days, didn't they?
Yeah. The Thursday, Friday, there was a particularly bad day with a bunch of unscheduled maintenance. And logouts closed for some period of time, so that's that. I suspect there may have been some of that playing into it. So, but also on the good news front, since I've sort of morphed into the Eat Your Vegetables section, the one thing that I've noticed about midweek was all of a sudden I'm seeing a voice bubble again in Second Life, which I wasn't for quite some time. So it looks like some of that has gotten fixed as far as how it behaves.
Oh, well,
with
good. Maybe it'll
Firestorm
fix the
Viewer.
lips on this show today. Because
Well,
they worked fine before.
I can't speak for what might have gone sideways in
Honestly.
in Petlove's connection there, that she's not seeing lips. But anyway,
Oh, well.
we're making progress there.
Yeah.
Oh
Good.
well.
Good.
Let's see. I have two more items, completely unrelated to Second Life, but certainly related to our virtual lives. There was a very interesting item come out of Facebook's developer conference this week, I thought, and that is that they are making a change to allow use of Facebook apps anonymously. In other words, you won't have to hand over the keys to your profile to third-party developers in order to check out games and that sort of stuff, all the apps that come up on Facebook. So while your information is still obviously being harvested by Facebook, at least it's your choice, not a forced march. If you want to check out the latest stupid game without everybody on your friends list knowing about it, that's certainly stopped me cold a number of times. I personally think this is a brilliant move on Facebook's part.
First they take it away, then they give it back.
Yeah. Well, it's apparently they're endeavoring to do a better job of making nice with developers, in part, and I think developers have kind of been looking the other way on doing stuff on Facebook. So, but that one I think for us end users who are in Facebook occasionally will be a good one. And the last thing, Mel, I had noted the high fidelity oopsie this week of the video that got out into the wild long enough for people's RSS feeds to pick it up and people to blog about it before they got it taken down. There are some screenshots in an Arapace article. So she actually had a pretty good summary put together before they yanked the video. But also apropos that note, by the way, it's alpha at this stage now. They're a long ways from beta, but they are still taking people's names and emails for alpha to participate in alpha.
Yeah, no, definitely alpha. Did I say beta? You
said beta.
Slip of the tongue again. Yes, dear me.
Yes, but what I was going to say is there will be demos of what they've done thus far at the Silicon Valley Virtual Reality Conference and Expo, May 19th and 20th in Mountain View, California, oddly enough, in Silicon Valley. Hey, what do you know? So if you sign up to be an alpha tester, there's a $100 discount on the conference registration as an alpha tester that they'll send you the particulars on. So if you happen to be in that part of the RL Sim and or might want to go to that conference, that's probably one that'll be pretty interesting for seeing some cool stuff.
We ran an advert at the top of the show. Yes, it would have been at the top of the show. We had some blank screens at some point before we started the show, but we did actually run the trailer for that conference, so it looks very good indeed. Yeah.
And that's all I have on my list. So back to you, and hey, we'll see what Marie's got. I'm sure she's got stuff.
Well, while you were talking, I finally managed to discover the mouth HUD I was wearing last week, so quite possibly my lips are now moving.
And they are, and that's a good thing.
They're not actually moving because I'm speaking, but that's a whole different matter that you don't need to know about out there.
We'll take it.
Yeah. Also, Tara did mention that conference, which is happening, and one interesting pieces there is that not only is Philip Fosdale presenting, but he's also going to be in a debate on the future of virtuality with Ebby Osberg as well. So the two of them at one point will be both on stage together having a sort of debate there, which I think is possibly even more exciting than the Hi-Fi Dirty demo. So stay tuned for that. So I'm really hoping that, well, they I have all the films of the Silicon Valley Virtuality meetups, and I presume they'll be filming the conference as well. So hopefully we'll get to see some of that. Maybe I'll be able to use it here after the event. Very interesting stuff I've seen at the event so far. Right, so without further ado, I'm going to hand the mic over to Maria for. She's had a lot of links in Hypergrid Business this week, and no doubt has lots to talk about, as always. So over to you, Maria.
Hello, Mel. How are you doing today? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you okay. And you've already commented on the fact I changed my costume, so we'll leave that be. Thank you.
Now, I'm noticing that my Inworld voice has disappeared, so I will, if people are watching Inworld, I'm going to turn my, my voice on and off and see if that makes it turn back.
It's a slight problem. It showed us being on for me and everybody, but Petlove's camera is not picking it up, so I think it's still glitched. I actually wore the mouth HUD we wore last week, but I'd worry about that later.
Yeah, it's no big deal. Okay. We're all used to it. It's okay. Thanks, Maria.
Well, anyway, my lips were moving just a few minutes ago, and they have. Oh, and look, they're moving again. So there is no rhyme or reason to anything that happens inside the virtual world. Okay, so stuff that's been happening on the Hypergrid this week. So one of the things is that I put out a May Happenings story on May 1st that has links to all the grid calendars in it. If you don't have those links, I've included that in there. And I've also included some highlights. So the big thing was that Metropolis just had its 6th birthday. And Daniel Voyager posted some photographs, and I have a link to those. Tropical Paradise had their 1st birthday. They're one of the new small commercial grids that have been popping up. There's a lot of these grids. Some really nice things happening on there, lots of things to explore. I personally don't go to them unless they're Hypergrid enabled because I'm too lazy to create new avatars. So I really prefer them when they're on the Hypergrids. I can just teleport in and check them out. But if you have, if you were one of those kind of person who likes to explore, you've got those grids up there, and they had some fun stuff happening. Some grids have been having some major expansion plans. Skylife added 100 region large C. So this is a mega region, which is an OpenSim thing where you can have several regions clustered together into one extra large region. And the benefit of this is no border crossings. And I've mentioned this before on this show, the benefits of not having border crossings. I don't know if anybody in the audience or here has ever had this happen to them, but as you go up to the edge of a region, there's kind of like a rubber band effect as you kind of like bounce back before you could move forward again, which isn't a very nice thing to have happen to you. Sometimes you also can lose attachments, or scripts can stop working when you cross a region boundary. And this is really bad if you're on a vehicle. So having a big mega region, and like this one that's a size of 100 regular regions, they're going to be using it for sailing. So that this is a wonderful thing, and they have some sailboats up, and you can just sail around this sea that's the size of 100 regions without a single border crossing to get in your way. So that's a really nice feature of OpenSim. We're going to get that expanded even more with the next release of OpenSim in the form of variable size regions, which will take that functionality even a step further, make that a little bit more friendly towards viewers. Right now it's a little bit of a hack. We had some new content people arriving on Kitely, poets and storytellers, and they're going to have a lot of events going on. This is interesting because it points up one of the use cases of OpenSim. you have a small group that wants to have regions for events that can bring their own group members with them. So the fact that there isn't a large, like a super big community already there, isn't that much of an issue, because they're coming, they're bringing their events, they're bringing their group with them. It's a low-cost way for them to have get-togethers. And then once they do that, then other people, might want to join in to see what's going on. So this is part of the, hopefully, part of this kind of the snowball effect of groups come in because of the low prices, they start holding events, and then other people show up because there's events to go to. Now, Kitely still hasn't enabled hypergrid connectivity. That's due out in the next couple of weeks, or next 2 or 4 weeks or so. So once that's on the hypergrid, that will make this even more interesting. So everybody's really looking forward to that happening. There's an interesting grid called Avalonia Estate, one of these small commercial grids that I mentioned earlier. They used to be a femdom grid, which is an adult lifestyle that's about female dominance, like so the dominatrix community. They've expanded to the entire BDSM lifestyle. But what's interesting about this grid is you can get free homes or rent land without ever having an avatar on the grid. You can hypergrid teleport in. So they're pretty unique about this. Most other grids want you to create a local avatar before you can get any land there. But Avalonia Estate understands that, you might only be a part-time BDSM person, and the rest of the time you may be living a perfectly normal existence on some other grid. So why should you have to have 2 avatars? You want to have your friends come over and join you for a little BDSM stuff once in a while. Maybe you don't want to keep those lifestyles separate. Or maybe you split half your time on Littlefield, which is another grid that came out of, originally started out as a BDSM adult lifestyle grid. Now it's become more generically social. Maybe you want to split half your time there, half the time here, and you can have one avatar, and you can attend events on both places, and make friends in both places, and introduce friends to each other from both places. So that's an interesting development. The plus side for the grid is that it doesn't have to manage your avatar. Your avatar and your inventory lives somewhere else, so that's a little bit of less burden on their servers. So it's extra convenience for you, less work for them, win-win, right? So that's, I think we're going to see a lot more of this kind of a business model coming up, where grids just provide some unique small thing to you, and everything else you can get everywhere, somewhere else. We already have that on the web. We used to have AOL give you everything, but now you go to one place for your search, another place for your shopping, another place for your instant messaging, another place for your socializing, another place for your news, another place for your sports. So on the web, everything is, little niche websites give you all this stuff instead of having one website that gives everything. So on a hypergrid, it looks like we're seeing the same kind of trend. Grids can focus on just the one thing that they do. So this grid can just focus on just having the best dominatrixes in the world, and everything else, they'll let other people handle it. They'll just focus on their particular area of expertise, whips and chains, right? Yeah. So, and I think this is a nice development for the hypergrid in general.
I mean, the idea that you can actually go somewhere without as a hypergrid avatar, which you can already, but, it will rely on your asset server from somewhere else and things. And it's just a place you visit. Seems to be a wonderful idea, to just scale down to the absolute essentials of what people want to do.
And it means that you can pick from the best. You don't have to choose one grid and take everything that grid offers you. Maybe that grid has a lousy search, or maybe that grid has a really unstable asset server that keeps losing your inventory, or maybe that grid has a lousy events calendar, or maybe that grid doesn't have the best selection of content or something. You don't have to rely on one grid to do everything. And this reduces the burden on the grid developers as well. They don't have to be good at everything. They can just be good at one thing. And it's a lot easier to be good at one thing than it is to be, good at everything. So, so that's why I'm kind of particularly pleased to see that. Now, this didn't make it into the May happenings, the May events, because the grid owner sent that in to me a little bit late. But Sim Valley, which is a grid that is both Dutch and English language, they're based in the Netherlands, just added 100 regions for a free land giveaway. So this is the single biggest land giveaway I've seen yet in OpenSim, other than 100 free regions. So now they've always been giving away free plots of 1,024 square meters. So it's a regular.
A region is a simulator, effectively, is it?
A region is 65,536 square meters, same as in Second Life. It's a standard region. So they have the standard region. The use of the word region and simulator is not quite identical, because a single simulator can have more than one region on it.
True.
So it's really confusing. It's really confusing.
I think of common terminology. People tend to think of a sim as the
region.
parcel, but even on Linden Lab servers, there's 4 sims to a server. So
right.
I know people who don't know that a simulator is a computer, is a standalone. Is one computer. I mean, so really, it would be
because it's not. You can actually run several simulators on one server. Each simulator running several regions. A simulator is one instance of the server software, technically. So the same way you can run 2 viewers on your computer at the same time, if your computer has the power, you can run 2 versions of the OpenSim simulator on your computer at the same time and run 2 little mini grids or two separate sets of regions. So all you have to do is make sure that each simulator has its own set of ports for communications in and out. So if you have a big enough server, you can have multiple simulators on it, and each simulator can run multiple regions. And since the only people who know this are developers, I try to avoid using the word sim or server as much as humanly possible. Same thing for the server. You can run multiple servers on a single physical machine. So if you have a single physical computer, it can have several servers on it. Each server can run several simulators, and each simulator can run several regions, just to make it even more confusing.
It sounds like me with my media service, actually. There's about 3 running on the same machine behind me.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, fair enough.
So which is a different use of the word server. Oh my God. So the word server can mean a physical machine, it can mean a virtual server machine, and it can mean the OpenSim server or a voice server or a web server. So it's just a totally different meaning of it entirely. Oh, yeah. So don't even get me started on the vocabulary here. Oh my God. So Sim Valley, so they're giving away everything from 1,000 square meters, which is a typical land lot, enough room for a house and a backyard, all the way up to a full region. And they have enough of the small ones basically to last to everybody that they expect to show up this year. For the full region, they want to have you have a good story from you, that you can be doing something interesting with it. They don't want to just give away regions and then have them sit there empty. They want someone to do something with them. This is a commercial grid. They make the money by renting out land. They're a hosting company, so this is a big promotional thing for them. I mean, they got a front page story out of this. And I guess they had some extra servers sitting around that they can put towards to work. What they do is they run grids for schools and corporations in Europe. So Sim Valley is their kind of the social grid. It is hypergrid enabled, so you should in theory be able to teleport in and out. I haven't been able to do it. Could be server incompatibilities, and by server incompatibilities I mean the OpenSim software and compatibilities. And I'm talking to the guy now about what's going on there. They're probably running a different version of the software. But in theory, it's hypergrid enabled. You should be able to teleport in and out. And you can upload inventory and or region archives up to this grid as well. So and everything in World is bilingual. Everything's available in English because how many people speak Dutch anyway?
Not most of the Dutch, actually.
I should not say anything. I should not say anything. But if you're looking to get started in OpenSim and don't mind Dutch people around, again, sorry for saying that, Dutch people. I'm sure I know Dutch people and they are wonderful. One of my best friends is Dutch.
They'd laugh.
And they have the cutest accents. But anyway, so go in there. If you have an interesting thing you want to do, pitch it as a build to them. And I've all the contact information I've included in the article. So go to it. Enjoy. Okay, what else? What else is going on in OpenSim this past week? Let's see.
Actually, while you're looking, I'll just come in with a couple of things if you want. There's a blog I've taken to, only subscribed to recently, actually, and it's not on my main list, but it's called www.roadtovr.com.
Oh, I love that blog.
They are great. I'm getting a lot of stuff from them, and a lot of the extra video material I'm getting these days is coming from there. I'm actually going to copy that link over so somebody can get it into the channel for us. Oh, wow, it's a long link. This particular link actually is to a post they had about the Silicon Valley VR conference coming up at the end of the month. And this is a summary of all the speakers and panelists that have been announced. So I thought I'd just add that in if you want to find out more about it. That's the blog to go to. Anyway, back to your main feature.
So what I was just looking up was the date of last Sunday because a lot of stuff happened since then, and I wanted to find out what was it that I already talked about, and this was a lot of stuff. So K0 came out with a new report. Well, you mentioned that last week. I did a little thing about them, and I talked about journalism in virtual reality. High Fidelity is going to have nested content and peer-to-peer avatars. We talked about that a little bit last week as well, and I looked a little closer about Philip Rosedale's post and how that's going to work. So that looks very interesting. We discussed this briefly. We can talk about some more. The Moses Grid, which is the military's Department of Defense project in OpenSim, it's a huge grid. They have a packaged version of it that they've been distributing to dozens of other federal agencies. A very interesting project. They put out a video about this Team Orlando, which is a group of...
Yeah, we have got that on the channel running, actually.
You've got that video on the channel.
That is great, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's a little interesting video about highlighting the role that virtual simulations play in this. OpenSim's physical prims can now be 64 meters big. Previously, they were only 10 meters. This isn't all prims. So all prims can go up, 1,000 meters or something. But this is just the physical prims. Which made it difficult to create like vehicles, for example. So that's been changed because the OpenSim physics has gotten to the point where it's good enough to have vehicles with multiple passengers that require bigger prim sizes, and the physics will support it. Right. And that's due to Intel's work on bullet physics. One of the really great things about having an open source project is that you can have people contribute who are from like real experts in the world on this. In this case, this was Intel, and if anybody knows physics, it's Intel. So they have taken this bullet physics engine and they have adapted it for OpenSim, and they have been adding it and strengthening it and debugging it for the past year or more. And the bullet physics is now good enough to support multi-passenger vehicles. So if you didn't know this about OpenSim, it's out there and it's working, and it will be in the next upgrade of OpenSim or in the current experimental release. The folks, yes, you have a question?
No, I was just going to say that Intel do a hell of a lot. I mean, they were responsible for a lot of the background activity that enabled last year's OpenSim conference too. So, yeah, good on them.
The other big thing that they've done is the distributed scene graph, which allows up to 1,000 avatars in a single region. And they are working with the folks at Moses on testing that in the next couple of months. They're going to be doing some scalability tests. The Moses, the military folks, have been using the distributed scene graph to get large-scale events and simulations. So that's pretty exciting.
Is that so that they can role-play battle plans and things like that?
Yeah.
They play Risk?
Yeah, basically, yes. Basically, yes. So they can have people playing villagers and combatants and non-combatants and Red Cross people and soldiers and local politicians, and they have everybody in a single region, and they can have people try on different roles and see, put themselves into the shoes of different participants in a conflict, and which is a very kind of educational thing to do, and also plan scenarios for what would we do if this happens, what would we do if that happens. So and they need a large number of people for that. So that's what one of the things that they're working on with the distributed scene graph. The Oculus Rift has been in the news again this week. My particular favorite is an Oculus Rift advertisement for a Swedish internet service provider that was making fun of its competitors whose internet was too slow. And the point of this ad was, what if real life had lag? And the way they simulated lag was they put an Oculus Rift on you with a camera. The camera recorded whatever it was you were looking at, and it fed it to you with a slight delay. And it turns out that it's really hard to do anything in real life when you have lag. You can't scramble eggs. You can't go bowling.
Don't we get enough of that in Second Life? That's funny.
Really funny video. A nice way of using the kind of, they're piggybacking on the hype of the Oculus Rift. Doing something clever with it. Another way to piggyback on the hype of the Oculus Rift is to use the Oculus Rift for trade show demos. And the folks at Arch Virtual have been helping companies do that. Because the Oculus Rift is so sexy and everyone wants to try it on, if you bring it to your trade show, then you will have a line at your booth. Everyone will ignore all the other booths, stand in line at yours.
Brilliant.
They will listen to whatever sales pitch you give them just to have a chance to try an Oculus Rift. So now you should give them something, you tour your new tractor factory or whatever it is you're going to be, doing this in an Oculus Rift. But it's a really cute way to get attention for your product right now if you're at a trade show. And so nice article about how to do that well and how to manage your people in your virtual environment in that context. If the Oculus Rift is too expensive, right now it's $350, and delivery is expected, last I checked, in September. So if that's too much for you, you can get an Altergaze project, which just finished its Kickstarter, and it successfully finished its Kickstarter. So it's too late now. But for about $50, you can get something that's made out of plastic, that's 3D printed plastic, that you slide a cell phone into. So you can watch movies in 3D, or you can play little 3D games. It's not great because a cell phone right now doesn't quite have the same kind of processing power as you get from a real computer. So it's not the best possible thing. But for example, if you have a video that's already designed to be watched in 3D, like say somebody playing an Oculus game, posting this video online or something like that, or a movie that's been converted to this split screen kind of format, you can just watch that, play the app for it, to watch it, and put your cell phone into this headset and watch it in 3D. So it's a cute way to turn any cell phone into a pair of $1,000, 3D multimedia goggles, right? And there's even videos online of how to make this out of cardboard. So if you're really, really cheap and you really want this, now if you can't even afford cardboard, what you do is you take your iPhone, you pull up one of these Oculus Rift videos, you hold the iPhone in front of your face, and you kind of like cross your eyes like you're doing the magic thing, the magic picture, and you kind of like defocus your eyes, and it will pop into 3D.
I think that's going to blow our liability insurance right out of the water.
How about two iPhones, one for each eye? You just hold them up.
and one with the sound turned up, tucked into your collar, so it vibrates your neck. Yeah.
And would that work better with an iPad than with an iPhone?
Yeah.
Well, no, because you need to be able to have each eye focus on a separate picture.
Yeah.
So that's the main problem there.
That is brilliant, Maria. Thank you.
It's funny, I did try in the news section, the RL stuff. I actually got 2 copies of a video in the week, which were actually demonstrating Oculus Rift and a special fairylands that's been put online for people to explore it with. It's not in Second Life, but it looks like it is, if you see what I mean. And they actually released 2 videos. They did the Rift version and they did a normal version, and I actually loved it because it's the first time I'd actually seen an Oculus Rift demo on video that didn't have the 2 screens. You know how everybody's publishing these Oculus Rift videos, and unless you're wearing an Oculus Rift, you don't want to see this double image.
It's the reason they show the double image. First, it's a marketing thing. It's obvious that it's the Oculus Rift image.
Right.
So right then and there, you see it at a distance, you're like, ooh, Oculus. Second, it's easier to film that way because you just do a screen dump of the screen you're looking at.
Yeah.
But third, you can play it on your cell phone, cross your eyes, and watch it in 3D. Now, again, I have not been able to do that. I've never successfully been able to do one of those magic eye puzzles either.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's something to do with the fact that my eyes, I'm supposed to be wearing glasses. I don't because I'm too lazy. So they're just off enough, or maybe I'm just not smart enough to figure out how to do this.
Don't give up. It took me a couple years, but I can do it. So if I can do it, you can do it.
They can be difficult. I have a hell of a time with them. I mean, I do remember
they're worth it. They're really amazing.
At some points in the past, I actually managed to do it on a couple, but I don't fall naturally into that focusing in the center thing. It's just and I'm like Maria. I should wear glasses when I don't.
Yeah. I don't sit in classrooms anymore. I don't need to read print far away. I passed my road driving test without them. So I'm like, phew, screw it. I mean, I don't need this. Yeah. All right. So that's the Oculus stuff that's been happening. So I love everything Oculus. I can't get enough of it. So. A new report came out by Markets and Markets, which is a research firm, which is great because I was looking for these numbers. That they're expecting the augmented virtual reality market to cross 1 billion by 2018, with around 400,000 of it, 400 million of it being virtual reality. Now, of course, these numbers are simply made up. So you can't really rely on it for anything. Because who really knows? But
I was going to ask whose Kool-Aid they were drinking.
yeah, but they're I mean, then they have some reasons for these projections. I assume they're not just but they're basically really inventing them. The reason why numbers are good is because you can write a business plan around them. Now, obviously, business plan is also pure fantasy. But the fact that you take the time to do the research to make the business plan makes your investors feel a little bit happier with what you're doing.
And some people do make real business plans based on real facts too, which also inspires confidence. But in a virtual environment, well, in college they used to make us do it. But when you're talking the virtual,
unless you have a business plan for an industry that does not change at all, there is, because, and even if you have an industry that has never changed, it just shows no signs of changing, you're going to get a tornado hitting the biggest manufacturer, and all of a sudden every single projection is out the window. It's but at least you're more likely to have something that could be close to reality with an industry that does not change. With an industry that is just in the process of being born, you don't know where you are going to be on the hockey stick curve. If you're on the early side of the hockey stick curve, growth is going to be so slow it's going to look like non-growth, and you'd be like, oh, nobody wants this stuff. Look at how slowly it's building up steam, right? And then you cross that inflection point, and your growth is astronomical, and you're like, oh my God, it's growing so fast. It's going to grow this way forever, and you don't know when that inflection point's coming. And since you don't know when that inflection point's coming, you have a choice between super, super tiny growth and super, super huge growth, which makes any possible business plan totally, totally worthless. But again, just the fact that you're thinking through these things is a good sign that you're serious about your company and you're worth investing in. But the actual details of the plan, not so much. I would suggest that if you're doing this, if you're making a business plan right now, is that you build it around contingencies. What will you do if this happens? What will you do if that happens? What will you do if this happens? Instead of saying, this is what's going to happen. We're going to have $1 billion market by 2018. Let's build our entire business around this one prediction. No, have plans in place for what you're going to do if different things happen. So, okay, what else? The high fidelity stuff was very interesting, so I've been keeping an eye on it, and folks have been commenting on some of the articles. I think one of the older ones, that why are we even bothering with OpenSim when high fidelity is coming down the line, because OpenSim is growing so slowly. So my answer to that is, OpenSim meets a lot of needs for a lot of people. Why would you throw it all out today for a product that's not even available yet, that we don't know how it's going to work, or what its business model is going to be, or how much it's going to cost? I mean, we should wait and see what the options are before we, stop doing what we're doing right now and just hop over.
Yeah, so and also, jumping the gun a bit, isn't it? Really?
Exactly, yeah. People are getting value out of OpenSim right now. If they weren't getting value out of it, they wouldn't be using it, right? So they're socializing, they're selling land, and they're making money selling product. Well, whatever it is that they're doing with it, they're getting something out of it, or they'd stop. So why would you stop now, early, ahead of time, in the hopes that at some point in the indefinite future, something better might come along, right? So, but that got me thinking. Well, what are some of the reasons I would switch away from OpenSim? What would a platform have to offer for me to switch? So, for example, Cloud Party was a fun little platform. It was browser based, which is one of the things that is high on my wish list. But I didn't switch, and very few other people switched. And so that kind of made me think, well, what are some of the other criteria I have? And I made a list of those. So if you're a vendor building a platform and you want people to switch over to your platform, specifically if you want me to switch over to your platform, then I have my list right there. You don't have to necessarily hit all 10 of them, but the more of them you hit, the more likely you will be to get me as a customer. And that includes things like hyper-good connectivity and low prices and open source support and in-world content creation and being able to customize my avatar. You know, all these things that we now have in OpenSim, which is why we're using it, that many other platforms don't offer. So it's amazing how even some really, really high-end platforms don't allow these things. For example, a content marketplace. For me, this is really important because otherwise, you either create something by yourself or you have custom development for it. And both of those things are either time-consuming or really expensive. A marketplace lets you, buy stuff really low price and you just use it immediately without having to upload it, configure it, script it, and everything else like you have to do with mesh content. So this is something that's important to me. None of the proprietary platforms out there for virtual worlds right now have that. Have a like Protosphere or the Teleplace 3D ICC, which bought Teleplace. They don't have this. You can upload mesh objects, but then you have to do everything, all the other work that's involved in making those mesh objects actually usable inside your world, or you hire somebody to do custom development for you, often the vendor that's providing the platform, which is why these projects can run into the six figures. And that makes it hard for these platforms to gain a lot of mainstream acceptance because they are expensive to use.
I think it's that in-world economy and the community that develops. I mean, I wasn't around in Second Life when it first came online, but I'm sure when there were 16 simulators or something. Well, I say sims, so regions, and they maybe 2 shops or maybe no shops. I don't know, and the marketplace didn't exist. There would have been that preliminary point, and it's really, I think, futile to talk about high fidelity this way because, I'd like to think that they're working on more of a framework than an actual virtual world. And, I did hear talk at some point from Philip and somebody that, it down the line, it will maybe connect with existing things like Second Life. So it's not... it's not absolutely an alternative, different virtual world from, but we really don't know at this point. And even when it does go live, it could be a couple of years, say it is another Second Life, a competing sort of type platform. It could be years before they actually develop an in-world economy of any size that we can even think of it that way. So, with OpenSim, is there. The hypergrid is there, and
Right.
it's the best thing on offer in that regard for the present, I think.
Exactly. So another thing I would like to see that would inspire me to seriously consider switching would be an easier user interface. It is so hard for me to get employees or friends or book lovers or whoever it is that want to get into a virtual world to get into OpenSim or Second Life. You really have to sit there next to them for the first half hour and kind of lead them through it.
Yeah.
And then they get frustrated trying to do almost anything because it's not obvious and intuitive. I mean, it is to us. Actually, I'm lying. It's not to me. Every time I do something in a viewer, I have to look it up how to do it because I've lost it again.
Yeah.
They keep issuing updates that move all my the buttons around.
Yeah.
So I can never find anything that I need. And then I use 4 different viewers. I use Imprudence and Firestorm and I use the standard Second Life viewer and I use Singularity. And they all put things in different places and all the menus are different. So not only do I have to learn one viewer and where they put stuff, which is never in a logical place, but then I also have to remember where all the other viewers put it.
Yeah.
And it's really hard. Yeah.
I actually use I always use the same viewer, but I use a different viewer for each platform. So I've got one. I use a Singularity for OpenSim. I use Firestorm for Second Life, and I don't get confused because I refuse to have multiple accounts on any viewer. Yeah.
Well, this is why you only meet brilliant people in virtual worlds.
Yeah.
Either that or obsessive compulsive.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. It is funny though, because to help back to Tara mentioning our little excursion to Paradise Lost last night. I mean, great choreography, great scenes, sets that they built for it and everything else. I had my reservations about some of it, but it occurred to me that if you're trying to show that production to somebody who's never been in Second Life before, they would not have been able to appreciate it, because they would have not know, unless you knew how to camera up above you and to your left and your right and zoom in front of you and all that stuff, you couldn't really appreciate the fact that this event was happening all around you. And, even your own avatars, the chairs suddenly disappeared and you changed from angels into devils and you found yourself dancing as part of the set.
So they should have built camera controls into the seat.
Yeah, and, I said to Tara afterwards, what the obvious thing to do is you click a little red, you have a little red ball there, and they option lock their camera onto it, and then you make the red ball, whenever he's done it, you make the red ball invisible, and then you control their camera movements so that they can turn to whichever part of the event's happening at once. And it's a very small audience, like 12, 16 people at a time, so telling people to do that would have been workable. But even just doing something like that will put the whole, the first time user. So, a marvelous production, but the prerequisite is how to use the virtual world that you're going to see it in.
My personal feeling, and I feel very strongly about this, and I could be totally wrong because I haven't actually seen it used in practice, was to get rid of the menus and use in-world objects for stuff, like in a natural way. So that like for example, if I want to see what I look like, I would stand in front of a mirror and the mirror would show me what I look like, instead of having to right click on my avatar, figure out where the avatar appearance, that all this stuff that you have to go through, which is all menu based right now. I want it to be object based. I want to stand in front of a mirror and see what I look like. I want to open up a closet door and click on an outfit to wear it. How hard is that to do? But I can see that if you're used to the menus are a faster, more efficient way of doing it. But they're not a more natural and intuitive way of doing it. So I hope.
You could, I don't know where it's been done or whether it even can be done, but presumably there must be a way, it sounds like there should be a way to actually engineer scripts into an object that open menu systems, whereas access the menu system of Second Life itself. So instead of going to avatar appearance, I could click on a wardrobe or something which was scripted to open the appearance change box.
I would like to see APIs to access camera position, so that you can have scripted video cameras and everything else that goes along with it. And I would like to, so for example, a mirror could be in effect a scripted video camera that looks at you from that position.
Yeah.
I would like to see more scripting options for clothing changes, so that you can build a virtual closet where you can click on things and it knows it's a more intuitive way of putting on clothing and things like that. And I would like to see that. It means you can have fewer clothes. You're not going to have 5,000 different tank tops because you can't look at them all. But then again, I have 5,000 different tank tops and I can never find the one I need.
Yes, quite.
Maria, later on we'll have to talk, Maria, because there's a way to keep a whole outfit in one folder, and then you can just drag that whole folder onto yourself, and there's your pink top with your black pants.
I do.
Do you do that?
I do use outfits. Yes.
Okay, good.
if you've got the space too, you can also get these things like wardrobes that are actually enhanced prims, where you can actually drag stuff out of your inventory and store them in a physical wardrobe and things. Nice. But yeah, I know what you mean. I was thinking about something the other day. Actually, I have a program. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, called Rooms 3D. It's a Windows program. It's an interface program, and I used to run it. The only problem was that it was like running a virtual world, and it used up the graphics card. So whenever I wanted to come into a real virtual world, I had to quit this desktop program, which is what it is, in order to power up the the server for Second Life or whatever. But it had one nice trick, and it was very rudimentary, like an early Second Life, and you could never see your avatar. You just walked around, you never saw yourself. But you could switch between using mode, which is wandering around and doing things, and edit mode. And when you're in edit mode, you could actually take any object, like a bookcase, and you could access your local system files, and you could link to the folder that contains all your Acrobat books, for example, or ebooks these days. So once you actually set it up, you go out of edit mode, you just wander around your little virtual house, and when you felt like reading a book, you click on the bookshelf and it would take you to the menu that showed you all your books. This is all offline, it's a totally different engine from Second Life or anything. But as a metaphor, it worked really well because it wasn't cluttered with anything. When you were using it, generally, you just used the arrow keys or whatever to wander around and used your mouse pointer to get what you wanted, launch a program or anything. You obviously had to go into edit mode to set it up for yourself, but that's a one-time thing. When it was done, it was done. But I'd like to see something like that as well.
I think the long-term benefit also of putting functionality out of menus and into objects is that it prepares you for the Oculus and other viewers. Because with the Oculus, you can't have menus. If it's off to the side of the screen, you can't see it. You move your head, and
the world moves with you, as it should do.
Exactly. and it breaks immersion, except for special cases where heads-up display makes sense, like you're a pilot, for example, and you have the gauges right there on the screen and stuff. But for the most part, if you're just walking around, you don't want to have text hanging in front of the eyes. It's really disconcerting and weird. So you want to be able to touch an object, touch a door, and the door opens. That kind of basic stuff. Which when obviously we already have opening doors, but have that same kind of thing where objects act the way you would expect them to act, would prepare us for a virtual world in which we don't have access to menus or the keyboard. And finally, my last thing that I would like to see in a new platform is a huge marketing budget. I want them to have enough money to spend on getting people to use it and not rely on word of mouth, as cloud parties seem to do, or the media, like Second Life seem to do. Because you really want to get people... If I'm going to be switching from OpenSim, which has tens of thousands of users, to something else, I wanted to have more of a future, to get more traction. And I want them to have money on hand to have a really nice marketing campaign. Maybe not AOL-style marketing campaign with a CD in every cereal box, but something sizable where they control the marketing message. And they don't let the media control the marketing message, because as a member of the media, I have to tell you this. We are bad at marketing you.
That's a very good point. That's a really good point.
We're very good at criticizing you, but we ain't too good at marketing you.
No. We like stuff that's new.
Yeah.
We like stuff that's sexy. We like stuff that's dangerous. Those are the things we pay attention to. So if you have a good, solid product with a good, solid user base and not a lot of scandal, we don't care about you anymore. Because there's nothing new there. There's nothing exciting there. But it's useful, but we don't care anymore. We've moved on to the next thing. And there's a reason for it's the way people think. If you're seeing a tiger coming at you from one direction and a pretty sheep in the other, you're going to pay attention to the tiger first, not the sheep, because the tiger can eat you. And it's just a natural human instinct. And because of that, it's really hard to tell good news stories in the media. It's people do not pay attention to them. If you started a channel that was all good news channel, no scandal, no violence, no sex,
Nobody will watch it.
no viewers. Everybody complains about the sex and the violence, but
But they
nobody wants
love
to
it.
actually do anything about it. We love it. Yes.
More to the point, the only reason they're able to complain about it is because they've been watching it.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's a funny thing. I mean, I wonder to what extent it's the platform and also the events themselves. For example, you can say, well, Linda Lab should be promoting Second Life a lot more. They should have a good way of getting attention to the platform to get people in and download the view and what have you. But equally, they would need to be focused on reasons to actually do it. And I think it's a shame in a way that sort of the media, for example, will focus on a salacious story about Second Life, for example. But you're right, generally speaking, if nothing's happening special, they kind of ignore it. It's old news until something exciting happens. But there are things that happen in virtual worlds that actually are newsworthy and exciting. Like say that on one level only, of course, at the educators conference the other week, and a lot of the PR for that kind of thing resides on the person creating the event, organising the event, rather than the platform they're doing it on. Especially if you're doing it on several platforms, so it's not always down to the platform.
No. Look at Apple. Look at Apple and their, let's say, iPhone or iPad apps. They often will spotlight cool things that people are doing with their iPads or iPhones in order to promote the platform. There many industries have co-op ads where the vendor and the customer will team up and split the cost of ads to promote something that they're doing with a platform.
Oh yeah.
When the vendor is way bigger than the customer, the vendor will often cover the entire cost of the ad. And so like if you have a small bakery with Squarespace may do a national ad featuring your bakery. And you get a free national ad for your bakery, and Squarespace gets a feel-good, little marketing story out of their website platform. So this is very, very common for other platforms. Second Life seems to be doing, maybe I'm missing these, but I have seen 0 ads of this kind for Second Life. And like you said, this is an example of people are doing actual useful things with Second Life that nobody knows about. And then the other side of it is that when America Online did all their ads, going online was super, super difficult. You have to have special hardware. It was really expensive. It took a lot of time. And you got very little out of it because there was very little stuff that was actually online at the time. They forced people to do it. They had huge attrition rates. People would try it, and they would immediately drop out after trying it because, there was really nothing there for them to do, and they got bored once their free hours ran out. But they kept doing it. They kept pushing people. And now, of course, we're all online. And I think part of the reason is because AOL really forced everybody in America to at least give it a try.
Yeah.
And
and AOL, since I was very active, kind of in the run up on all of that. The other, we took to laughingly calling it the Disc of the Week Club because
I was just going to say,
here was another AOL disc, and of course, I think what a lot of people did was there would be people who would create an account with AOL, use up the free hours that came with the disc, and then trash that that profile and create a brand new one because you were paying by the hour for AOL.
right.
And the advantage of AOL in those early days was you could pop the disk in, install AOL, and as long as you had a modem connection, you could get online. And you didn't have to know how to download other software in order to get at a browser, or to get at, well, it wasn't a browser. There were multiples in those days, but in the World Wide Web, when that finally came out, AOL actually was before the web. And so AOL incorporated a web browser along the way.
Eventually,
when Netscape got decent enough for them to do so.
Yep.
But it gave you at least 2/3 or 3/4 of the way to connectivity by virtue of giving you software to download. And also AOL had its own online internet connection options, at least in bigger cities. So you could put the disk in, install it, and then as long as you had a modem, the modem would take you to AOL's proprietary online access, internet provider stuff, and walk you through. But you're right. In those, in those pre-1995, roughly 96 era, getting on the internet was quite an exercise. Having helped migrate several thousand people out of Apple's eWorld to the web. People who'd come into eWorld had never had an internet account, anything other than that, didn't know what they were doing. I'm responsible for getting them onto the web.
Bless you, Tara.
What's a task?
Yeah, well, it was quite, Apple pulled the plug. They gave us, we had a month from when they announced they were closing down the service until last night. And it was quite a scramble. I just happened to be unemployed at the time. I was able to just kind of leap in and blitz on. I spent a couple days writing instructions, and then we started running training sessions. But that you're absolutely right. It wasn't easy.
No. Yeah, everybody who complains about how hard Second Life is has to keep that in mind. It used to be so much harder. Yeah. So anyway, so those are kind of the reasons that I would have for switching to a new platform. And since none of these are, I mean, maybe High Fidelity will have this. Who knows? Right now, we're all reading into it what we want to see. We hero worship Rosedale, so we think that he's going to produce something magical. That is exactly what we want, personally. So we're reading the tea leaves. He'll say a couple of things. The video will come out, and we'll read into it the answers to all our hopes and dreams. But in practice, who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? Who knows what's going to happen with Sony? Who knows what's going to happen with Facebook and Oculus? Google's bound to do something. Apple is bound to do something. Microsoft's bound to do something. They're staying quiet about it. Some companies do that. They stay quiet until all of a sudden they've got a finished product, and you go, "Whoa, where did that come from?"
Well, Apple in particular have all sorts of patents on sort of everything from avatars to holograms. There's even something about a new iPad Flat and having projected holograms coming out of its surface.
Oh, thank God! I've been waiting for that. Oh, that's awesome.
But they have the patents. We know the patents they have when people uncover them. But how far down the line they keep it all under wraps. Of course they do.
Yeah, and Apple has a history of figuring out an interface that will work, and of investing the time it takes to get it right. Like they had the Newton, it didn't catch on. They came out with the iPod. They iterated. They kept iterating it until we got something that was really great. When they first came out with the whole Windows metaphor with the Macintosh, they were smart enough to realize that this mouse and then this graphical interface was the combination that was going to work.
Yeah.
And
would Microsoft be without it?
Exactly. So there's a good chance that they will figure out the combination of the viewer and the interface device that will work, and that right now they're busy working on it. So for all you know, Microsoft's just sitting back waiting for Apple to invent it, and then they'll hop all over it, or they might be trying to get ahead ahead of something for once in their life. Again, nobody knows. Right now, the only thing we have going is say we have this now. We can use this now. Let's use this, and and we can keep an eye on things that are happening. But we shouldn't make plans, especially not plans that affect real money and real businesses until something more solid.
Until something to work with. Actually, one of the best things I heard the week, which did come out from Apple, is that they've got patents on their headphones, and they're changing the shape of the pods and the pads or whatever, so the earphone, I think it's on the phone that the earphone piece goes at the bottom again now instead of the top. But eventually the headphones are going to connect by not Firewire. What's the name of that new port they use? Anyway, the new iPads and pods and plods and everything else have a new type of connector, and the idea is that the headphones are actually going to connect via that. And the reason for that is that the headphones themselves are going to have motion tracking built into them, so they won't just be listening devices. They will give you motion control over the device you're connected to. And I suddenly thought, well, there's an Oculus competitor of a sort. I've got a virtual world on my iPad, and I move my head from left to right, and the headphones sense my movements and spin the world around accordingly. So there's all sorts of ways that this could take off in the future. We can prophesy, or it's useless to prophesy, and we can't see the future. All we can do is look at the trends and see what we think. Why, that's a good idea, but will it or won't it? We don't know. But actually, bearing in mind what you were saying, I did have, as usual, I managed to get other links open while you were talking, and one of them, I've got to find it, of course. I've got several, in fact. Where is it? Right, here we are. I'll copy this into the chat here so that it gets to the channel if somebody can do it. This is the International Society for Presence Research. Ooh. And they have an article on new production frontiers creating virtual reality narratives for Sony and Oculus Rift. And this is getting into the area, we're talking about things that would bring people in. This is getting into the area of things like television and cinema, and actually authoring virtual narratives like cinema that will actually encompass virtual surround. And, amazingly, film producers are already at work on this. They think, presumably they think, in 10 years' time, there'll be special cinemas where the seats have an Oculus Rift attached, and you'll go to these cinemas just to see the blockbuster in surround. So, we were talking about, Second Life promoting its platform, and maybe some of it's down to the content people, but this presumably will be film companies promoting their content, and obviously in terms of the platform, they'll obviously have to get together with the cinema chains to kiss out the cinema chains so they can show it. But people don't promote the cinema; they promote the movie that's going to be in the cinema, and I think that is sort of what I was getting at earlier. If the media is going to go on something, jump to something, they'll be jumping on the latest blockbuster movie. It needs to be something newsworthy and tangible like that sort of gets you into something like Second Life, but actually bypasses the fact it is Second Life, if you see what I mean.
Well, what I'm going to say is, with the caveat that I have no idea, I'm going to come right out and say it's never going to work.
Malia.
I have a reason for this. I think that immersive storytelling is a different medium than the movies. And that the reason why we go to the movies is for a different kind of immersion than we go to 3D stories. So when you play a video game, you have a different experience than when you read a book or listen to a song or watch a movie. It's not going to replace movie watching. It's going to be a different kind of experience. And movie watching is a social experience. It is a popcorn eating experience. It is a sticky seat kind of experience. and we value that part of it. And I don't think going into a cinema and putting on goggles is in headsets and watching something privately makes any sense at all. So
you may well be right. I mean, look at the 3D glasses thing. That's never really taken off, despite that little resurgence. People don't want to wear it.
Yeah. Given a choice, I'll watch the movie in regular 2D and then 3D. But with those, even with the glasses, you're still sitting next to somebody. You can interact. You can poke them with your elbow. You can hold their hand. That kind of whatever it is you're doing.
Yeah, fall asleep on their shoulder. Yeah.
It doesn't interfere with eating popcorn. Yeah. With texting people underneath your coat. Whatever it is that you do in a movie theater.
Yeah.
You're still part of a social experience. You can see the people around you, and you do get a sense that the screen is bigger than you, which I think is one of the reasons why we also come to the theater to have the big effect.
The IMAX thing where you're just vertical against this huge.
Yeah, and people do appreciate that and pay extra for it. With the Oculus, it's a different. It's both a smaller and a bigger space at the same time. So it's smaller because it's just you in this headset, so you're shut out kind of from the world around you. But it's also bigger because there is no wall, there is no screen, it's the whole world. You're inside this giant world. So I think it's a different medium. I think that arcades will have a room for a kind of place for it, for the more expensive high-end version with the 3D treadmills, and maybe instead of a headset, like a 3D screen, like a cube kind of effect, so that you can play video games, 3D games socially with your friends. And it would be too expensive to have at your house, so you would go in an arcade to play this. So maybe there's a room for it there. But in general, I think immersive storytelling, if you want to really see it happening, go to Grand Theft Auto 5. Great example of a story that's being told in 3D that people love, pay huge amounts of money for, and spend a lot of time playing. And I have a final thing.
Yep, you can have a few more after me. Anyway, so carry on.
I have a final thing that I wanted to talk. I have two things I want to talk about today. But so one of them is that the story I've been planning to write about how to get a free 100,000 perm region on Kitely. I finally posted it with very detailed instructions. It's the lead story right now on the site on Hypergood Business, and it goes through step by step what you have to click on to get your free region. And it's not obvious. It's even though Kitely is normally a user-friendly kind of site, they did not make this user-friendly. And I go through all the steps that you go to create your own free region and the settings that you have to choose in order to do it.
Is there a link to that piece of work, Maria?
Hypergoodbusiness.com.
Okay.
But I can give you the link to the whole story. It's as well inside the Skype chat. Okay. And at the top of the story, I talk a little bit about why you might want it, and the word "free" has an asterisk after it, and there's a reason for that. And the reason is that it's only free for 6 hours. After that, if you want to continue using your region, you have to pay a little bit of money, about 20 cents per hour. But Kitely premium users can continue to access your region for free. So if you want to, say, put up a shopping mall that you don't have to pay rent for, you upload everything to Kitely, you set the access to premium users, and you just stand back. Now the premium users can go in, can buy stuff, your money's coming in, and you're not paying any rent. So that's a good deal. Another way to set it up is, like, say you have a museum or an art installation or some kind of other kind of nonprofit project. You don't have any money to pay for region rent. You put it up on Kitely, allow access to premium users, put up a donation box, and people, if they want to, they can go and visit it. You have it up, and maybe you have a little bit of money coming in from donations. Another way to use it, if you have a historically interesting build that you want to have up in case people want to see it, but you don't want to pay to keep it up because it's not that historically interesting to you. So you want to save it, but you don't want to save it enough to pay for it. Put it up on Kitely. Set it up for premium user access. Anybody who really wants to see it, can go on Kitely and visit it, and you don't have to pay anything for it. Another way to use it is as a warehouse. You've got a whole bunch of stuff you want to stick somewhere, and you want it to be easily accessible to you anytime you want it. You don't want it on your home computer. You want it up in the cloud. Put it up on Kitely, and if your 6 hours run out, pay 20 cents an hour, and you can go back in and see it anytime. So, and finally, of course, if you just want to try out OpenSim and see what it's like, 6 hours should be plenty of time for you to decide whether you like it or not. So all the instructions are there for how to do it, and it's.
I've heard of homeless people needing to squat, but the idea that you can squat to run an enterprise and make more money is a rather curious twist.
Yeah. So and I asked Elon Tachna, the CEO of Kitely, this question: what's to stop people from creating a bunch of these accounts and creating a bunch of free regions? Because you can log in with Facebook or Twitter, but you can also log in with email password combo, and of course you can create as many fake email accounts as you want. I mean, free email accounts as you want, because they do email you a confirmation. So you can't just use a fake email account. You have to use a real one. But you can set up as many, free Gmail accounts or whatever as you want to have. And he said, fine with us. He said, you can create 1,000 of them. We don't care. It's not against our terms of service. Go right ahead. So, and I think for Kitely, it costs them a little bit of money to keep the region in storage. They keep it up on the Amazon cloud, and so it does cost them a little bit of money. But since the only people who can visit the world are premium account holders who pay for their accounts, it doesn't cost Kitely anything extra to have your region visited and active. And in fact, it's a benefit to the other Kitely users.
Yeah, it's more
because if you put up a historic build, if you put up a museum or a shopping mall or any of these things I mentioned, that's another destination for these users to go to.
Exactly. It's more traction for the platform itself. So, yeah, it makes perfect sense.
And of course, it also builds up their region numbers and their user numbers. So the more cynical people will say, well, yeah, that's what their users are like. But if you set up one of these accounts and then you never use it again, just keep the region up, then you're not going to show up in the active user numbers. And the active user numbers is what people really care about. Because, you can create alts on any grid, right? Yeah. And drum up registered user numbers. But unless you actually are going into a grid and using that avatar, it's not going to show up in the actives for that month. So, Kitely, I don't think it's really doing this to game the stats in this particular case, because it does cost them a little bit of money to keep the regions in storage, and it doesn't help out with the active user numbers at all. But it does provide a benefit to existing users. So, so overall, I think it's a good thing. And anybody who wants to try out OpenSim at no cost with 100,000 prims to play with to decide if they like it, this is a great way to do it. And then if they do like it, they can upgrade to a premium account or to a paid region, or they can export the region that they've built. Kitely makes it really easy, just a button that you click to export the entire region as an OR file, and take it to Sim Valley.
Okay.
Get a free region there. So
right.
All right.
Okay, well, Kitely's always a good place to check out. I think we'd better move on, because I feel like we're probably 25 minutes or so to go, and there's still quite a lot. Did you have something else in your headlines there before?
This isn't from a headline. This is a reaction to something you said.
Right.
You said something about the Maya and the virtual reality, and how the world is.
Oh yes, right? University of Cincinnati. That was.
And it occurred to me. That's every major religion out there says that life is but a dream. Life is an illusion. Life is a temporary thing. Life is not real.
Every religion is afterlife propaganda.
Yeah, but basically, it says that
virtual.
The world around us is, exists in God's imagination, or, it's a play that we're acting through. And that after we die, that's when our real lives, our eternal lives will begin. And I have taken that to mean that we are avatars of our permanent, infinite selves that exist somewhere outside this universe. And we are playing this game of life. And that the reason that horrible things happen in this game is because that if nothing horrible ever happened, we wouldn't bother playing it. Because it would be too boring.
I don't know. I think I could dispense with the horrible things. But you know what? That's a very interesting perspective. It really is.
No, seriously. No. You take a trust fund baby with all the money that they have. I mean, they kill themselves with drugs almost immediately. It's like if you're playing a game and you had infinite lives, first thing you know is you're going to try to kill yourself in the game. Because all of a sudden, if everything you do works, it just gets too boring and you stop wanting to play.
Need that danger.
But I think if the organic world is Second Life, then my afterlife will be high fidelity.
Mine will be a holographic existentiality.
I don't know. I'll be happy to come back as a cat.
A cat, yeah. With a scratching paste.
Okay. Maria,
that would be the equivalent of the iPad app. Would be the playing as a cat.
You got me here now. You had another post. Actually, it wasn't your post in the week, but it's a Hypergrid Business. It was a press release about 100 global visitors went to the virtual reality technology thing at the Eon Experience Workshop, which was here in Manchester in the UK, which is quite interesting. It's fascinating, and it's not just because of Oculus Rift, although you might be tempted to think so, but it is really fascinating how many links to online VR and related kind of things that are just popping up these days. These RL conferences go on and on, although they're much more specific than they were, say, 5 years ago, when they were more generalized in their focus. So that's a press release. You can read yours. I'm back on this site, road2vr.com. And as I'm talking, I'm copying the link.
Thank you.
This was quite interesting. Oculus VR's chief technical officer is a guy called John Carmack. And aside from Oculus Rift, he's working on something else, according to this post. He is developing a virtual reality comic book store. The comic book fans can literally go to and get and research comic books in a virtual reality environment. So apparently he's got Marvel Comics developer AVI involved, and therefore Disney involved by default, I suppose. And that actually sounds like a great idea. All the comic book fans of the world, of which I used to be one, I suppose, can just go online into a virtual reality environment and shop for their comic books and maybe experience extra information virtually, about the worlds that these superheroes and stuff inhabit. So I thought that was a nice thing to read about. It was a great contrast, of course, to the other news this week that, or it may have been at the end of last week, was that Amazon recently bought a huge iPad app called Comixology. And, everybody thought, oh, it's in the big company's hands. Within days, people using the app find they can't buy any comics in it anymore. They have to, because they don't want to pay the 30% to Apple Store, the iTunes commission. So if you want to use Comixology now, you can use it to read stuff, but they're making it like a Kindle. You've got to go to Amazon's website to buy the books and download them. And then they can be downloaded into your Comixology app. So this is a huge, this app has huge users. I mean, I gather it's more or less the default app for comic fans to read their comics. And Amazon, bought it for a whole load of money, and suddenly they can't get their comics through the app. And it sort of seems self-defeating. They're just going to partition it off like the Kindle, and their argument is they're not going to pay a third of the retail price of everything to Apple as commission.
Right.
But basically, some interesting issues. You're going to be locked to buy comics. You're now going to be locked into Amazon, just as in many ways you are to buy certain books. The walled garden thing again. Right. But anyway, a virtual comic store just seemed to brighten up the miserable news about Comixology. So,
but it'll never work.
Hang on. I didn't hit return. I didn't hit return there. Oh, pets say malvolume. Does that mean my microphone's still on my
It's
nose?
okay right now. No, you faded out really badly there for the last couple minutes, but it seems okay now.
Okay.
Just fine.
I think it must have been Skype or something, because I was just checking that my microphone actually removed itself from my nostrils. Okay.
Thank you now.
Massively, massively.joystick.com, you probably know it. They just had an interesting post in the week. There's not much to say about it, really. That is Stanford University libraries have actually acquired the original source code for the Mud 1, which is considered by many to be the original virtual world. It was sort of chat-based Mud things, but glorified chat room in many ways. But it's considered really to be a sort of start of the progress of virtual worlds. And the source code now belongs to Stanford University Libraries. So it's now history.
Oh.
But it's history in the sense that it's a remarkable period of history, sort of thing. I'm getting tongue twisted there, aren't I? Meanwhile, this is not a hypergrid-enabled destination, but there is an OpenSim-based grid called Inworlds, spelt with a Z. And I've got a nice post here from it's actually apparently a group called Artworlds, again with a Z, which is the Inworlds with a Z Visual Arts Network. And on May the 10th, which is just under a week away, their spring 2014 show is opening, and it will continue to October the 10th, 2014. So if you want to hop over, I like the pretty pictures I'm seeing here. So if you want to hop over to Inworlds, you do have to make a separate avatar to go into that one, I'm afraid. But I'm posting the link now. You may be interested in that. Right, something else that came back to... Right, yes, another link is on its way over at the same time. The title of this one is a site called JED, or JIED.org, and it's a feature on using immersive virtual environments to create immersive science assessments. Now, I've done it now. This came to me through a regular feed, even though the top of the article is marked internal and confidential. Yes. Okay, well, anyway, if you're into the academic stuff, you might want to follow that one up. It's too late now. I posted a link. That sounds like a high fidelity video I know about. Right. Another link I have here is to a site called tinyplanets.org. There's the link. And the title of this one is Tomorrowland. What does the future of online virtual worlds look like? Now, this is possibly rather simplistic. It's a short article, but it says they will be more responsive, their uses will be expanded, they will be, crucially, they say, they will become part of society. There's not much here, but what there is very good, and it's a nice little sort of thing that you could almost might want to copy and sort of paste to people who say, well, what's all this virtual world thing all about? Interesting little link there. Now, I suspect many of you know there is a site online called issue.com, ISSW.com, and you can create your own little magazines as PDF files or whatever, and upload them to this site, and they turn them into flipbooks for you to read. And there are two rather nifty ones this week. The first one which I'm copying in now, is the latest edition of a virtual education journal. This is basically all about virtual worlds in education. Meet the avatar generation, my avatar and me. So the April issue of that is up at the link we put in. It's you get to the link and it's like a flip book and you read it through it. Although if you register at issue, they usually offer you the option of downloading a PDF. And the other nice news, and I think this is the first time it's happened, this is another issue of another thing from the same site. The latest issue of the Journal of Virtual Worlds Research, entitled The Metaverse Assembled. And normally when this has come online, it's a very interesting sort of academic journal, but I used to have to go online and I used to have to plod through the menu and download a PDF of each individual article, whereas now they've compiled it into magazine format at issues, so I can actually read it as all one thing, which is a real bonus. It means I don't have to go online again and again to download the individual PDFs, so good to see that being published as issue as well. So I think in the course of today's links, you've got more than enough reading to last the next week. And the final one, believe it or not, another journal online, which can't get too many. I don't have time to read half of these, but I'm all for lots of journals appearing. This is Welcome to the Journal of Digital Humanities, Volume 3, Number 1, Spring. And this is a special issue on exploring and designing virtual worlds. So, and you can download that as a PDF or an ebook or an EPUB. So you can read it any old way you want, really. Right. Okay. We mentioned your post, Maria, on high fidelity and mystic content and everything. Right. I think I've exhausted the list here too. I think maybe unless we've got anything more on the greater metaverse, maybe we just cover anything. Sorry, I'm scrolling here, mad. Yeah, I think I've done anything. I'm going over to the other feed. The Inworld stuff. The Inworld stuff. Now, we don't have much time really to devote to this today. Well, the highlights happening at the moment, as you probably saw from clips earlier if you were watching, is the Fantasy Fair, which is going on right now. Tara mentioned it at the beginning, and apparently it's not so hard to get in as we thought. To great acclaim, a beautiful, I think the 16 Sims and all, they're always been beautifully designed, and it sounds like they are just as much this year. You only have about another week to get there, though, so if you do want to visit, you want to visit during the course of this week. Yeah.
It's not an exhibit that runs forever, so it's one you really do need to go catch when it, soon after it opens, because it only runs for like about 8 days, 9 days.
I went and I didn't have any real trouble. It was really not terribly laggy, and I had no trouble getting around at all. A lot of really wonderful stuff. Thank you.
Yeah, no. I was Sander Green said he'd probably pop on the show next week. He's actually in there exploring it right now and sort of come over with his impressions. But any impressions in the meantime, I'd glad to hear.
I know the hunts are supposed to be especially good. There's the first hunt, which is, I think it's started today, Tara, or yesterday maybe?
The hunt starts tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
There's been some kind of role-playing thing going on that I think may wrap up today. I'm not sure about that, but don't quote me on that. But the hunt starts tomorrow.
I know David Abbott has done the writing for both of the hunts. The second hunt is a week after Fantasy Fair closes. It's during the week following. And it's sort of like a Mad Pea hunt. You go through the story, and then the prizes all come to you at once at the end. So, but I hear it's great. Sorry, Mel.
Right, yeah, well, actually, you just reminded me of something else that I'd almost forgot. I was going to try and guess it here, but I couldn't find it earlier. Mad P Games, who they just made probably the most fantastic games in Second Life. I don't know whether they've ever been on OpenSim or anything, but, they're highly immersive games. They take a long while to do. They're sometimes quite complicated, but the prizes are always wonderful. They all come at the end. They are actually in a bit of a trouble. I'm not sure whether it's sim costs and things like that they have actually been putting appeal out for helpers. I think it might be both financial and sort of time-based help they need. And seeing they are so good, I think it's well worth publicising the fact that you might want to get involved with them. Apparently, for one thing, for example, they're not, because they make games. Not, I think some people might actually say these games are art, but because they're not technically art, they don't fall under any of the subsidies for LEA or anything like that. So but they do them because they love them. And, I suspect they don't really make much money out of them, and they need a bit of assistance. So I thought I would mention that. I love Mad P Games, as does Tara. I know. They are just too good at what they do, almost. Yeah, so there's that. And also, of course, the Second Life 11B community celebration will be coming up before long, and the call for exhibitors went out this week. So if you're interested in taking a little pitch to display your wares, actually you're not allowed to display your wares, it's simply a celebration thing. It's
if you want to go celebrate in the name of your own enjoyment of Second Life while you happen to have a logo lying around somewhere.
The old logo doesn't go miss, but I've just sent a link over, and the link I've sent is to Nara Pay's blog, and she's basically got it all: community celebration, calling all exhibitors, etc., and information about where to go if you want to actually get involved in that. Which reminds me, I should put my own application in at some point. Right. I think most of the other stuff I have got here, I'll probably try and recall next week when we focus a bit more on destinations and things again, because we are running close to time. There's been a big fuss about which we were talking about obviously last week. We've exhausted the topic really, the golden age of Russian avant-garde. But coming up on the week in review, we've got various clips and things that have actually been filmed there. We also actually have some film showing that's already been filmed from the Fantasy Fair. And you were mentioning hunts a minute ago. Neo Victoria are up to episode 4 of a daily bulletin they're doing while the fair's on, and this seems to be connected with one of the hunts. I haven't got the videos up on this channel. I'll probably put them somewhere else, which I'll get to in a minute. But also there is, I think it's about 2 or 3 times a week at the moment, Safia Widdishin's along with, it's probably Victor Mornington, I'm not sure. No, somebody else. They're basically doing SL11B bulletins. They've got this character called, I think he's called the Madman or something. And he comes on.
That's right.
He comes on every couple of days, and that's all zany, and gives you a little update on the progress for SL11B. And we got all those clips on the channel here at Metalworld 2 at the moment. What I did want to finish with, not quite finish with, is just a little bit talk about broadcasting. We've been making some changes sort of behind the scenes here. One of those might actually include having a little display screen on next week's show. We were talking with Maria here about it, so maybe we can actually show you logos and pictures while we're talking, and sort of little enhancements to this show. But those of you who watched the show live, I have watched it live as part of the Metaverse Week in Review, which is our sort of long-standing sort of 8-hour marathon show every weekend. Realised that this program has sort of taken over from the old webcam stuff we used to do there, and I'm now beginning to consider it a separate program. It may even go out on another channel in the near future, not immediately. And obviously the replay of that is available as part of the Metaverse Week in Review every week. The Metaverse Week in Review is largely the playlist is going to go up on Monday or Tuesday, not today. A lot of it is here today for you to watch when I sign off. But we're sort of slowly separating its identity a bit for PR reasons and embed code reasons and everything else. Moreover, the sort of real life type clips about breaking technology, interfacing, and metaverse themes, real life videos, as it were. I'm now repackaging under the old Meta World news brand and running those as a separate program on the channel, which means that in future weeks we'll be on air with this program pretty much on the hour at noon, and the news clips will probably run from about 11 a.m. or however, it depends how many there are. So basically separating out Meta World News from Inworld Review and the Week in Review, which will continue for a long time yet, but as a playlist. And as far as the Week in Review is concerned, not this week, but as of next week, I guess, we're disposing of the performance and the lifestyle segments, which have been growing. They were meant to be kind of incidental, but they've been growing rather big. And I've rebooted our original Meta World 1 channel as a sort of companion channel, which will be showing performance, lifestyle, fashion shows, anything like that comes our way, that is really to do with in-world lifestyle. I'm going to be separating out onto that channel so that this channel and this program can focus more on things like the hybrid grid and arts and cinema and destinations, things like that. A more serious look at the metaverse, and the fun stuff gets its own channel, as it were. But it shouldn't be taken lightly, because as I always point out, and I'm sure Maria will agree, you may be a businesswoman or a businessman and you're coming into the virtual world for a conference, but you still got to think of, how do you want your avatar to appear? Are you going to go and shop for clothes? Are you going to get an animation overrider? So a lot of the things that are actually covered in the lifestyle feeds are actually of quite serious relevance too. But let's just say MetaWorld 1 is a more light-hearted place to be. Well, if anything could be more light-hearted than this show, actually, but that's... But anyway, I thought I'd better get that in, even though this is...
That's interesting.
Made the announcement on the Inworld Review, so to speak. So, we've actually overrun our 2 hours already, but who's counting the exact minute? Who's counting the exact minutes? Except Petlove's taxi meter. Yes. So I think we can sort of round up. I'd like to actually go around everybody though. Any other highlights you haven't mentioned that you've done this week, or anything coming up that's getting your mojo working for this week?
Well, if you go on Amazon and look for Hypergood Business, there's now a Kindle edition up that I'm updating to reflect the new website look and feel, that you can subscribe for 99 cents.
What's
Alrighty then.
Is that like a weekly compilation put together in book form, or?
It's something for the Kindle. It's just a list of blog posts that comes out on your Kindle. There's absolutely no reason to pay 99 cents a month for it, but if you have 99 cents a month and you like it to come to your Kindle in this particular style and format, it's there.
Right. Okay.
I don't think enough people have signed up for it for Amazon to send me any payments at all so far. And I don't blame you, because the same content is available for free online. You could just put a link to, your Kindle, whatever.
I Twitter everything. It's very interesting. I've got buttons on my machine that, I'm in a web browser or something. It allows me to send Kindle. So, if I come across an interesting site for reading that's quite a long article, especially if it's got lots of links to documents in it, I will often send that to the Kindle. that as a web page and then read it on the Kindle, and then I'll click on the PDF links and things on the Kindle, and of course then I can just say download to Kindle for the link content too. So that it can be useful if like some of the more academic-y stuff I put in the links earlier, it can be very useful for that. And indeed you can download PDFs of all those issue magazines and documents and just send them over to your Kindle. So it's, sometimes it's just nicer to read stuff on a Kindle interface or Kindle machine.
The convenience.
Sometimes.
Yeah. Convenience alone.
I have an RSS feed on Hypergood Business, and in fact, that's how I subscribe to most of the blogs I follow. Is I subscribe to their feeds, and Google Reader shut down their thing, so I moved to something called Feedly. And I have it on my iPhone, and that's how I get most of my metaverse news and my tech news is on that. And if I like something in particular, I will flag it or I'll email it to myself or something. But I read the entire article on my iPhone, which is how I read these days on my iPhone.
I'm very much the same. I only ever come over to this workstation either to go in World or to switch answer a Skype call, not always in, and and edit videos and things or compile them. I sit around horizontally with my iPad almost all day long reading the news, and I get your news via an RSS feed, and well, this is a tip. What I do is I on my iPad I use the two programs I can't live without are Feedly and Flipboard. Flipboard turns all my social feeds into articles, and it usually doesn't include the gossip. It just turns the links into articles, so I can see what people are talking about. And that can be Google Plus, Facebook, Twitter, any of them. But it basically filters out all the gossip I don't want to know about. But Feedly is just a pure RSS reader. In both of them, if I come across an article that's long or I want to read later or tag in some way, I simply can save it to a service called Pocket, which used to be called Read It Later. And Pocket is open on every single machine I've got. So it's like a repository for anything I find. Now, if I find something in Feedly, like an article from your site, I will simply send it straight to my Twitter stream from Feedly, and that's it.
Right.
I've got two different Twitter accounts. I've got the Inworld account too. I can do both from Feedly. If I'm in Flipboard, I can only use one Twitter account, which was my main one. So from Flipboard, I actually send Inworld articles to Tumblr. And Tumblr automatically sends them to my Inworld Twitter feed. I'll do it with
and of course, Mal, all these your gadgets that you're using right now, ask you 6 months from now, and they'll all be different.
Yes.
With the same stuff in them.
It's always a danger working with the cloud and stuff, and I always try and check things and try out new services to see what's going to be best. But it's basically, as you were saying, Marie, it's so much easier to read these things on the iPad, and I actually use that system because it records everything, and if I need to get it on the desktop or adjust things, Pocket in particular is just a wonderful way of saving everything all in one place, so that you're in Feedly, and as soon as you've read it, it gets marked as read, so it's gone. Well, that's the way I work. But if I do want to keep something, I send it to Pocket, so it won't be gone, if you see what I mean. So all the important stuff I can catalogue using Pocket. But that's the way I work, in case anybody's interested. That's my workflow, and it's all done horizontally with my headphone stuck over my face. No Oculus Rift needed. Right. Okay. Petlove, anything new up and coming?
Well, two things that I wanted to mention. The first one is, I don't know how many people are aware, but Safia Wittershins has her own YouTube channel now. I badgered her into getting back into editing, which was her first love in multimedia, and she's now filming and filming, editing, and publishing her own films, which I think is wonderful. So I'm going to put that link in the chat. And she's just got such talent. She's a real natural, and it's really wonderful to watch. The other thing I'd like to point out is that my lips are working really, really well right now. So I don't know what's up with you guys. I knew they were working.
I think it's something to do with the viewers. It's coming on and off a bit, and I think what happened is they weren't showing up in your viewer, and they've come on. But
I'm only seeing mine. I'm not seeing Maria's or Tara's. It's the weird. This is a new wrinkle in SL features here. But anyway,
I've got the white dots, but no radio waves. So that I think basically voice is back, but still not working, or at least not reliable.
I think you made a good point by saying it's a feature, not a bug.
The tiny community at Raglanshire years ago dubbed anything that goes wrong with the browser, the viewer, or Second Life a feature. It's a new feature, and we laugh it off and we roll with it.
That's been a long-standing riff with developers. It's not a bug; it's a feature, and I think it originated at Microsoft.
Oh, okay. See, I didn't know that. My experience is more limited.
Well, right. Yes.
But it's funny.
Microsoft it would have to, wouldn't it? Everything's a bug, so it has to be a feature. You reminded me, actually, that another thing that has, I believe, just opened is the annual Raglanshire Art Walk.
Ah, yes. They are not to be missed.
No, they're not.
Super thing.
This even if you're allergic to tinies, you
Who could
really
be allergic
would.
To a tiny?
Yeah, but it's a great art exhibition. It really is. Every year, and I bet it's been in the offing for PR and stuff for a week or two. I believe it opened. I believe it opened yesterday or today.
The good thing about Raglan is that you get to see the work of lots and lots of artists, not just the heavy hitters that we are starting to become accustomed to, because there are so many creative people here. I mean, I've exhibited at Raglan, Anybody can exhibit who has something halfway decent to offer. And it's just really nice to see all the different types of art and all the different types of visions that really, some of them are imported from real life. You can upload your graphics and pictures of your paintings. And also they have a 3D sculpture island. I think it's over on Heron for those who engage in sculpture. You just have to go see it. It's a gigantic production and it's really amazing. You have to budget hours for it.
I think that's presumably why they call it the art walk.
Yep.
You've got to start at the beginning and walk the route.
It's not a fast process, that's right.
Alright. So, how about you, Tara? Any closing?
I think I covered everything I had on my list from earlier. This past week I've been probably sufficiently distracted by the nice weather and wanting to get outside and soak up some rays. And it's planting season, so I've been doing RL planting. It's called, it's time to get those bitty little tomatoes into slightly bigger pots and get them outdoors so they start soaking up some real sunshine. And so I did that this week. Potted up I got a couple of deck roses.
Oh, cool.
Small roses.
Nice.
I don't dare put regular roses out in my garden because the deer will eat them rather quickly. But up on the deck, they've got a fair chance of surviving because I've never seen a deer climb up the stairs and get on my deck.
See, now you said it. It's going to happen. Now it's going to happen.
So I have they apparently they don't care for wild roses because my neighbors across the road have some wild roses. But that was how I learned. Actually, I knew that. I learned that before I moved over here. That roses and deer are just, deer think roses are very tasty.
So happy together.
When they're in bloom. It's kind of like just when the bloom gets perfect, along come the deer and
along come the.
We have squirrels that do that around here. We have squirrels that will eat the top off of anything. It's pretty funny.
Anyway.
Didn't you also have a visit from a friendly local bear as well, didn't you?
Well, I don't know. We have had bear reported in the vicinity as of a couple of weeks ago, and there was one day here about a week ago when I had put out new suet, and the next day I discovered the suet feeder yanked off the tree on the ground and empty.
It's a big raccoon or a bear.
So it could have been a raccoon because it was a tall raccoon who could have potentially reached up from the deck rail because that feeder hung over the deck rail or it could have been the bear. But the more I thought about it, I think it was a raccoon.
Could have been Bigfoot.
I think a bear.
Aren't you in Bigfoot
Yeah,
country?
well, we also have something called the Hood Canal tree climbing octopus.
I'm moving out
They're
there.
very rare, and they're very shy. They're exceptionally shy.
Never caught on
it
tape,
may
I'm
be
sure.
migration season for the tree climbing octopus. I'll have to look into that and report back.
Oh, what a wonderful idea. Tree climbing octopus, indeed. You know, there is another redeeming feature to virtual worlds, and that is you can come in world and admire all the critters without all the dangers.
Like these kitties, for instance.
It's not quite the same. Yeah.
Whoa, that one got away from me. Hold on.
The camera is now chasing the kitties.
Without any success.
The other kind of
Oh, that's the
There he
first one.
goes.
That's the first one, kitties. Isn't it? Or am I imagining things?
No, it is.
Yeah.
Yes.
And,
the
he,
old,
and he's using the scratching post.
I've got one of it. I've got
good timing. Oh, wonderful
That's
timing.
the second time. I got them a couple times, yeah.
Oh, we're going out perfectly. I've got one of his brothers down on the beach somewhere. Mm. Oh, look at him. Yay. See what you're missing if you're not in virtual worlds, folks?
That's right.
And really, those claws won't hurt your leg either.
That's right. Or your curtains.
Or
Or anything else.
Okay, well, time to wrap, I think. We will be back, of course, same time, same place next week with another sparkling edition for you. Probably accompanied by more cats and more flowers and all these wonderful things I'm seeing on camera that we're panning out with. And, of course, Tara and Maria will be back with me then, and probably Petlove too. Guests yet to be announced. It's actually quite a good job we didn't have other guests today because we filled the time completely. So, with that, I hope you will have a good week, be it in world or out. Check out all the things we've mentioned, and we'll see you next week. My thanks to Maria.
Thank you, Mel. Always a pleasure to be here.
My thanks to Petlove.
I and A View TV thank you for the privilege of being here.
Oh.
And thanks to Tara.
You're most welcome. And thank you both to Maria and Pat.
And thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you.
Yay.
There we go.
Collective applause as we disappear. If you are watching this show in replay, you probably know where it is. But if you are watching live but want to watch the replay of this show, you can find it on Inworld 2, Real Virtualities, of course, when it's recorded and up. But if you want to view all our shows, or at least all the recent ones, and the archive, go to slartist.com. That's SLARTIST.com, where you can watch our back shows at your leisure. And the recording will be online, online, uploaded very, very shortly indeed. So thanks for watching, and I'm getting ready to hit the button that will take us back to the Metaverse Week in Review.
Bye-bye.